You know how sometimes the best adventures happen when you don't plan every single detail. When you just go for it. No set routes, no fixed plan, just a map, a solid vehicle, and a healthy amount of uncertainty. That's the kind of adventure I'm looking to have. And on that note, we set out on a 4-day camping trip to explore rural Maharashtra. The rough plan would take us on a circle around Mumbai, beginning at Vaitarna Dam, then heading to Lake Arthur, then around the fringes of the Bhimashankar Wildlife Sanctuary, and finally Mulshi. We reached Upper Vaitarna Lake by the afternoon of day 1 with the hopes of finding a nice, quiet place to camp. But the reality was that the nicest and quietest spots were already claimed by private villas. With darkness approaching, we had to ask around at the nearest village for a campsite and were put in touch with Atharva, a local who ran one. After settling on a minimal price, we finally set up camp and lit a fire under the starry night right by the water. Are you ready for a mad sunrise? Is a good view at the very least. Otherwise, what's the point of it all? And thankfully, Vaitarna did not disappoint. But with a little scouting around and speaking to the locals, it's not impossible to find yourself a stunning campsite like this. It's gated, clean, and has an amazing view. And if you'd like to visit Vaitarna and camp out here, I'll leave a link in the description with a location and a contact number. After some coffee to soak in the views, we were back on the road heading to Lake Arthur in Bhandardara. The drive through the barely populated countryside was just what we were looking for. There were some stretches of road so smooth and empty that I just couldn't help pulling out my skateboard. By the evening, at Bhandardara, we climbed a short off-road trail up a hill to get a good view of the area and hopefully find a nice campsite. But even here, the more commercial nature of the lake made finding a secluded spot a challenge. But at least, thanks to four-wheel drive, we could drive further out towards the lake edge and pitch our tent right by the water. The next morning though, the crowd managed to find their way close to us with an unexpected funeral procession on the opposite shore. We wanted to leave ASAP and cooked up the quickest breakfast we could, ready to eat upma. And I must say, for times like this, or for impromptu trips, or just as backup for those really long, tiring days, ready-to-eat meals like this are just too nice to have in stock. With breakfast done, We quickly packed up and drove much, much, much further into rural Maharashtra. Once again, a nice downhill section tempted me into getting the skateboard out, and everything was going great until. After that, I decided to stick to the safer set of wheels. We headed south towards a spot we'd found on Google Maps near the Bhimashankar Wildlife Sanctuary. We were taking a chance heading here because we had no idea what to expect and not a lot of people seemed to visit this place. What we stumbled upon though was absolute gold. We set up camp at the top of a cliff with a vertical drop that fell hundreds of feet below. The view during sunset was giddying and mesmerizing. Eventually a few locals stopped by and their stories of leopards added an edge to our excitement and, of course, fear. That night, every rustle in the dark kept us awake. But eventually the sun showed us its bright golden face, and every sleepless moment was worth it. This is what adventure feels like, I think. Some parts fear, some parts amazement, and many parts getting out of your comfort zone. On our final day, we made our way to Mulshi Dam, sticking to the scenic back roads around the Bhimashankar sanctuary. We took our time, collected some firewood, took pictures, and basically made every extra minute to our ETA count for something.
Just playing.
But once again, we found ourselves struggling to find a campsite before sunset. Just before we lost light, we found a dirt trail that led us to a spot accessible only by four-wheel drive. Exhausted but content, we pitched our tent and passed out for the night. The only movement at sunrise were the birds making their way to grab breakfast in the lake. It was just perfect to sit and reflect on the past few days and the kind of places we camped at. The first one at Vaitarna was a safe, friends and family friendly kind of campsite where you can be sure to get a good night's sleep and a stunning view in the morning. The campsite at Lake Arthur wasn't the best for us, but I'm sure with a little more planning and searching, we could have found a very, very nice spot. The last two campsites were the most unpredictable in many ways. And unpredictability isn't the most comforting thing to think about at night before bed. But even though we didn't have the best sleep there, we did have the best mornings.
How can it hurt this bad just to breathe?
This little trip turned out just the way I was hoping. Not just a lot of driving, but also reconnecting, with nature and the joy of discovering places that don't exist in guidebooks or travel blogs. It is about taking the long way round, chasing sunsets, and mostly saying yes to the unknown.